Let's get this party started!
He's shining a light in the dark corners of our media.
You are fake news.
Our government.
Handling of classified documents.
And our culture.
I don't trust anyone.
It's common sense amid its chaos.
Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome...
Here's your host, Ike Wingate.
Hello and welcome to the show. It is Tuesday, September 16th. 2025, and we live in the United States of America. Those that are watching in the States, and this is still the greatest country on earth because of you and me and our resolve to continue to protect our freedoms, which is a cause that Charlie Kirk championed so well. And we're going to talk about him today, as well as the latest on his case, as well as other news items that are going on. We set the stage for today's show with this.
We're active in about 15 campuses, and we're growing very, very quickly. And keep in mind, this is not just a flash in the pan movement. We're going to become an institution to give them the power and the confidence to stand up and let their voice be heard. I started this organization when I was 18 years old. I decided not to go to college. I didn't get in my dream school, which was the United States Military Academy at West Point. I have this idea to galvanize and motivate the future youth of this country around a core set of ideas, not just political parties or politicians. And the ideas are really America's the greatest country in the history of the world. The Constitution is the greatest political document ever written, and free enterprise is the most assured way to lift people out of poverty and create prosperity for all. Those are the three big ideas. And I think that's something that can win.
We as Christians are called to go into the public arena to correct error with truth. So I go to college campuses and there's a lot of error. We're all sinners. We are all live in error. I'm far more interested in what God wants of me than what I want from God.
I have to say this without getting emotional, but I'm very proud of my husband. And I know many of you are too. You have worked so hard. And I know a lot of you have seen, obviously, his videos on TikTok and all the stuff he does on campus, but no one gets to see him from my angle except for myself and our children. And the sacrifices that he made this year, he's amazing. I'm very blessed.
And I would not have been able to do any of it without Erica. And that's the real truth. I'll tell you what. You are here as a grassroots response to the top-down revolution happening in this country. I want our Turning Point USA students to receive a round of applause. These are the freedom fighters of America.
The media said that Turning Point could never run a ground game. They weren't experienced. They didn't know Charlie, right?
This is the greatest generational realignment since Woodstock. This generation is the most conservative generation that we have seen in well over 50 years, and the numbers show it. What young people especially are screaming at is they say, give me a structure that I can live my life by. And especially with young men, more challenging of them, more saying, you know what, honestly, I'm not gonna talk down to you. Stop being a boy and become a man. You wanna learn what that means? Come to church and I'll tell you what it means to become a man. Because we have the greatest story ever told. What can I do to save the country? You answer that question every single day because you are doing the work to save this beautiful republic. You are doing something that is bigger than you.
If everything completely goes away, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. Most important thing is my faith in my life.
All right, no doubt you have seen some of the many, many tributes out there to Charlie Kirk. And when you're a guy who has made your life about the mission of doing good, there are a lot of clips out there. And I don't know if you're like me. I spent most of the weekend watching clips like that, clips of Charlie engaging in respectful debate. And there are a lot of those clips. The other side of this coin, my friends, though, is when you are out there doing good for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of freedom, people are going to malign you. They're going to twist your words. They're going to take you out of context. They're just going to flat out lie. And we know that this is the exact same thing that happened to Jesus Christ himself, and he warned of it. He said, they're going to hate you for my sake. And so we shouldn't be surprised by any of this. And that's where I land today, is that unfortunately, out of the state of tragedy from Charlie Kirk's assassination, brutal murder in front of the world last week, I've come away with a new understanding and a new clarity that we are in a spiritual battle. We are in a spiritual battle, my friends, whether you are a Christian believer or not. It is here on the soil of the United States of America. It's always been here, but because of this blatant tragedy, it has become so visible that there are two sides, good and evil. And I'm not talking politically specifically, but what I have come to accept and to frame my mindset personally is that we should not be surprised that there is a spiritual battle for the soul of America. There is good and evil, and it is happening behind the scenes in realms that we can't see, but it is clear and evident, and without question, it is happening. And that is why my mindset, the one I want to adopt going forward, is don't become frustrated or downtrodden or beaten down when you see these things happen. Rather, the mindset of course they're doing this. Of course they're doing this. Nice try, but it won't work. Doesn't mean we can't have righteous anger. Doesn't mean we cannot pursue justice and accountability. And it doesn't mean we sit on our hands and say, well, nothing we can do about it. No, no, no. This is not a call for passivity or indifference. It's a call to have the mindset to understand the true battle that we're in and to not let it deter you, frustrate you, to not let it distract you, but to understand it is here, it is happening, and do not be surprised by it. Accept it. Accept that we are in battle. When the enemy tries to engage you and destroy you, it shouldn't be a surprise if you're in a war. If you're in a war, you know that the enemy is going to try to take out your generals. That shouldn't be a surprise at all, but it's sort of like hit me in the face. Of course, that's what they're doing. There is a battle for the soul of America. And instead of being surprised and caught off guard when these various things happen, it is time for us to say, nice try. We are going to come back at you even harder than before. And I got to say, it may sound Pollyanna or naive, but Charlie Kirk has inspired me to have or at least strive to have a happy warrior mindset from the standpoint of we're not going to be discouraged from this. We are sad, but we will not be discouraged. We will not be deterred in our resolve to do what is right and to tell the truth respectfully and in love. We are not going to let this satanic radicalism take up all the space in the conversation in this country like they have for so long. They have pushed out truth. They have shoved aside righteousness, nobility, and respect, and we will not stand for it. We will insert into this conversation the truth. We will not accept lies. We will not go along to get along. We will not stand idly by while they try to destroy the minds and hearts of our children, while they seek to destroy, to lie and malign. We will not stand down. We will not stand by. Because people have said, well, you're not allowed to say that, or no, to each their own. That is where we are today. The church in America is part to blame for it too, because we have a lot of weakness in places that we should have strength. That doesn't mean we go out and take up arms in offense. No. But it means when someone tells you there are 57 genders, you say, that's not true. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but that is not true. And you will not bring this male into this women's bathroom. This is absurd. Remember, the reason why we the people is so valuable is because there is strength in numbers. And if you have seen nothing, I hope you have seen the fact that most of this country has condemned this violence, has condemned this attack on Charlie Kirk, and most people believe it is wrong. And if you've seen a map of our country, you know that most of this country is actually geographically red, which means that most of this country, as far as land mass goes and numbers, believes in civility, believes in traditional values to some extent or another, to where we have enough common ground to be a success in this country. The problem is so many of us have been silent for too long. We are busy about our days. We are hypnotized by the world and what it has to offer. We are wasting our life for the sake of comfort, all while they burn this thing down, or they try. Not anymore. This is a call for people to get involved. This is a call for people to get out of the chat. Not really, not literally. What I'm saying is, instead of spending your time in the chat on shows like this and thinking that you're making a difference, I thank you for being in the chat. I thank you for being subscribed to what's going on. That's big step number one, and you guys have done it. But that is not enough. It is not enough. You have got to take your feet and go out into the world and do something about it. Get involved. Maybe it's helping out a TPUSA chapter. Maybe it's doing something within your church to make sure your kids are educated on our country and what's going on. Maybe it's joining your local party and getting involved in doing something, making phone calls, knocking on doors, taking back our republic. See, there's a book by C.S. Lewis called The Screw Tape Letters. It's all about how these demonic forces distract us. There's plenty of things that are overt, like what happened last week in Utah with Charlie Kirk, but there are other things that are subtle, that are taking our eye off the ball. They are distracting us from what we ought to be doing. And I get it. Life is busy, but let me tell you, in the busyness, we are drowning. In the busyness, we are not active on the things we ought to be doing. Because we have enjoyed such a great country founded on the principles of freedom, and that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. And because that system has worked so well, it has created a mass comfort state which takes away any sense of urgency that we must protect it and keep it. What's the best form of government? A republic, if you can keep it, Benjamin Franklin said. That is so true, and we have become so comfortable, so lazy, so lackadaisical that we are allowing our country to be taken over by a mindset that seeks to destroy the very freedoms that we enjoy because of the freedoms we have. Many of us, our allegiance is to God and not government, and that drives Marxist forces crazy because it means they can't control us. But let me tell you, they have had a foothold on this country, and they have embedded deep, and they are playing the long game, and it is time for us to stand up and do something about it, change the trajectory of where we're going, and create a momentum that cannot be stopped. I believe in you. I believe in our fellow man to be able to do that. And now is our moment. Now is our window. Now is the time to say, you know what? I'm actually going to do something. Make that phone call. Text that person that might know how to help get you involved. Do some research, but do not sit here in the middle of this tragedy and say thoughts and prayers, and that's terrible. No, channel it. Don't sit around and be angry. Channel it. Now is the time. If not now, then when? Because there is an assassination culture now that is occupying the radical left. There is evil out there where people celebrate the murder of an innocent man and try to justify it by taking things he said out of context. This is a battle of good and evil, and you must get involved, whether it's politically, whether it's faith-wise, whether it's somehow serving your community with truth. I know it's scary sometimes. I know it's intimidating and saying, I don't have all the research, or I don't know everything about this. Don't let that fear keep you from doing what is right. Have courage. We must find that spine. We must tap into that courage section of our souls at this moment, and everybody has it, and now is the time. If not now, then when? I plead with you, I beg of you, do something. Do something different than you have been doing, in the sense of become active in the process one way or another. Take that first step. Look something up, make an appointment, put it on your calendar to do something. Go to a Republican Party meeting, go to church, ask how you can get involved, reach out to people you might know, do something maybe to teach students in your community about the history of this country, or at least have a conversation. But I'm telling you, we are losing the battle just simply for truth. There are only two genders. That is not controversial. And many other things. I mean, it shouldn't be controversial. It's not up for debate. Not because we said it, not because we created the world, but because God Almighty did. And so I plead with you, fellow soldiers, please get your feet moving today. Do not waste this opportunity. There is something happening right now in this country that out of immense tragedy, there is an open-minded opportunity. There is a chance to shape the direction of this country, but it is a window that will close the further we get away from this tragedy. It is human nature. So I just, again, once more say, if you're not involved, don't do what you've always done and say, I should probably do something, or maybe I should do that. No. Stop it. It's not maybe. It's I will. Today I will. Put it in the comments. What will you do today? Today I will what? Today I will reach out to the Republican Party in my county. And that doesn't mean Republicans are innocent of everything. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the Republican Party and the conservative platform gives us the best chance to enjoy the freedoms of respecting our fellow man and being able to worship God the Creator. The Republican Party gives us the best chance at that. It doesn't mean it's always going to be the case. The Republican Party could change, and it could be another party. But right now, that's what it is. And that's why I say to you, go and seek out. Maybe it's you reach out to somebody at your church and say, hey, how can we engage on the subject of civics or our government, or maybe engaging the students right now in this window? What will you do? I will go to my community center and ask about programs to do this or that. And if there's not one, then I'll create one. What will you do today? Because if we aren't active and we look at shows like this as just entertainment and information and we don't actually do anything with it, what's it all for? What's Charlie Kirk's life for? What are other people who are putting their safety and livelihood on the line by telling the truth? Why are we doing this? I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me in the aftermath of this assassination and told me to watch out for my safety. I understand the battle that we're in. I get it. It is too important to shrink. But I'm telling you, don't make people like Charlie Kirk and others that are in this space that are telling the truth. Let me tell you, you think I can go get a job somewhere else with what I've said on the record? No, I can't, because of the society that we live in. We could change that if enough people were like, no, this is common sense. Respect people's opinions. Don't make it all in vain. The only way it really matters is it's information is power, but not if you don't do anything with it. And so, again, I'm not trying to shame anybody, but I am trying to give you a kick in the butt and say, do something today, please. And whatever you plan to do, put it in the comments. I want to see. What will you do today? Who will you have a conversation with today? What will you check out today and research and connect with someone and do something with? What will that be? Let me know. All right, I've said enough. A couple news items as we get going here, things you need to know. Let's see here. Wow, that's great, isn't it? All right, let me see about this. All right. Basically, here are things you need to know. Luigi Mangione returns to state court for the first time in months today. This guy is one of the reasons I think Charlie Kirk is dead, because the left has celebrated Luigi Mangione, the guy who shot the United Healthcare CEO in the back in Manhattan. They've celebrated him as some kind of hero, and this guy who killed Charlie Kirk thought he would get the same kind of reception. And to some extent, he is in the evil recesses of our country, which unfortunately is a lot more people than I think we probably would have guessed, which is really unfortunate. That's happening today. Donald Trump is going to the UK to visit King Charles. The TikTok deal is allegedly very close to happening as well. President Trump is having a conversation with President Xi on Friday. You know my opinion on this. I say let it die. I don't think that it is doing anything for the soul of the children and youth or adults in this country, but it is what it is. Kash Patel is testifying on Capitol Hill today as well. Those are the main things that are happening right now, but more than anything, we're going to get into this killer. Tyler Robinson, 22, killed Charlie Kirk because he hated his opinions. Thought he was a fascist. Yet, ironically, as Piers Morgan points out here, killing someone to silence their opposing views is precisely what a fascist is. These people that define speech as violence. No, the only thing that's violence is violence. But this guy, the left wants to tell you, oh, well, he's a conservative. He's far right wing. He's a groyper, as they say. No, he is not. He's precisely what I told you the assassin would be, which is someone who is upset about the truth and likely very accommodating and like-minded with the trans community. I told you that last week. I didn't think it was a trans person, but I thought it was someone who cared about a trans person or was trans adjacent, as I said, someone very close to a trans person that has adopted emotionally this mindset and felt as though they needed to take matters into their own hands to defend the right of people to mutilate themselves and live in a lie that is not good for their soul, that is not good for their well-being. And so many people on the left have affirmed this insanity, and it is to the great detriment of those people they have affirmed. And that is who this guy is. Potentially came from a very strict upbringing, got into the college years, got on the internet, got into groups of people that sit around spewing hate, and this young man, Tyler Robinson, became radicalized. Here he was reading his college acceptance letter.
Congratulations. You have been selected to receive the Resident Presidential Scholarship from Utah State University. The value of this scholarship is approximately $32,000. This scholarship is available for 4 years or 8 semesters.
An awkward guy, in my opinion. Probably a guy who didn't fit in a lot of places, but this crazy group of people online in a Discord chat is where he felt accepted. Wasn't the real world, was fake. People that wouldn't do anything to get your back and help you, but online they would. And this guy fell for it. Now, what I want to tell you here is there are a lot of conspiracies going on about this. You got Candace Owens trying to say that Israel had something to do with it, and Mossad had something to do with it. Other details or other rumors about foreign entanglement. Any of those things are possible, but I would say it's very possible, and I would even say somewhat likely that whoever was in these Discord chats, those are potentially the connections that would be connected to a broader conspiracy, whatever that is. But I got to tell you, I think Candace Owens has lost her mind. I've seen her go after Bill Ackman, and I've seen his response, basically saying Charlie Kirk, it was something to do with his critique of Israel. People point to a couple remarks that Charlie Kirk said a day or two before he was shot. I'm telling you, that is way too fast for them to be like, all right, we're activating someone, let's go. It's unrealistic. Is it possible? Anything's possible. We know that. I'm telling you, don't get distracted from interesting narratives here. Because we already know that the trans community, because of the hormones and other things that they're on, as well as their radical ideas of hate and rage. And I'm telling you, if you've ever disagreed with a trans person, I've done it on TikTok, and the rage that comes out of them is demonic, scary. We've seen them do it. And the reason why I thought this incident was related to trans ideology was because of, a very recent incident in Minnesota where that guy shot the school up. And you look at these things and you go, what is happening in the national conversation in recent days, but enough time to do this? What's been happening? And that's been a huge part of it. Now, who is radicalizing, instigating, provoking the trans community? I don't know. I mean, who benefits from this? Israel doesn't benefit from this whatsoever. That's why I think in my opinion, that's absurd. But Russia, China, other adversaries, it's possible. Or it could be just completely organic, if you will, hate. Any of those things are possible. But a big lie that's out there right now is that this guy didn't have a gun when he got off of the roof. He absolutely did. You can see it in this clip. When he jumps down, he is holding a gun. There's no question, or he's holding a long, narrow object when he jumps off. He's got it in his hands right there. He's got a backpack as well on his back. And so they're telling you he didn't have a gun, so it doesn't make sense. And I'm not saying everything with the timeline is clear yet, because there's some confusion. And there's been a lot of misunderstandings about this. But he has a gun, and you see it right there, or what appears to be a gun. Can I say that I can make it out with 100% clarity? Of course not, because of this grainy footage. But he certainly has a long object in his hand. Okay, so I want to clear that up. I'm trying to help spread truth here. Now, let's see. I'm going to peek at the comments real quick here. Now, hey, something you guys can do is on X, heart the post and repost. We're going to be joined by a member of TPUSA coming up here in about 15 minutes. Now, what I want you to do, though, is heart this post and repost so others see it. Give us a thumbs up, depending on the platform you're watching on, and repost us or share this show. Please do so. All right. And so another question out there is related to this guy who is asking a question at the time that this all happened. I'm having all kinds of problems here on my view. There we go. All right. So this guy who is asking a question about trans shootings. This is the guy. Here he is talking about it. See what you think. Or it's just going to keep turning. Here we go.
The irony that the point that I was trying to make is how peaceful the left was right before he got shot. And that only makes sense if we stay peaceful. And as much as I disagree with Charlie Kirk, I'm on the record for how much I disagree with Charlie Kirk, but man, dude, he is still a human being. Have we forgotten that? Are we crazy? And people have obviously...
Okay, so these are the videos he's done on his page. I believe we have another... Okay, so that's the guy. According to Kash Patel yesterday, they are still looking into this guy. You tell me, do you believe him or not? Now, there are plenty of people that are trying to lie about President Trump's response to this, that they're trying to make it, Trump's fault in some way. And they've asked him, how does he want his followers to respond? It doesn't get any more clear than this.
How do you want to see your supporters respond to this? Charlie Kirk was a big advocate of nonviolence and free speech on campus. How do you want your supporters to respond, sir?
I think that way. He was an advocate of nonviolence. That's the way I'd like to see people respond.
Nonviolent response. So you can't blame President Trump for any violence. He is wanting people to respond non-violently. J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter author, right? That's what we're talking about here. She posted this. If you believe free speech is for you, but not your political opponents, you're illiberal. If no contrary evidence could change your beliefs, you're a fundamentalist. If you believe the state should punish those with contrary views, you're a totalitarian. If you believe political opponents should be punished with violence or death, you are a terrorist. And so much of the left believes that violence is a viable option politically. And then you have, of course, the media who hates the truth, pushing out articles about Charlie Kirk that are flat out lies. All right, so you have the New York Times, the day after Charlie Kirk was killed. They had to print a revision on it. Of course, they print it, on the back page or whatever. An earlier version of this article described incorrectly an anti-Semitic statement that Charlie Kirk had made on an episode of his podcast. He was quoting a statement from a post on social media and went on to critique it. It was not his own statement. They're literally ascribing other people's terrible comments to Charlie Kirk because he read it. And this drives me crazy. I'm going, okay, great. Just take people out of context. I can't imagine what will happen to me when I die. Think about it. You literally are reading someone else's comment and they run a story out to millions saying you're anti-Semitic, and then they run a really small correction saying, oh, never mind, that was actually somebody else that said it. I mean, think about it. Are any of us immune to this? By the way, this idea that we can be perfect in everything that we say is absurd. It's a standard that no one can adhere to. And it's crazy how the left projects the standard of perfection only on people on the right. They don't project that on themselves. And it's a lie that they're leaving. Oh, we're saying everything perfect because we're not saying anything of substance. And so they ascribe this standard. They expect this standard. It's not real. They don't really expect it. They just use it to where anything anybody says, they go crazy on them as if they're perfect themselves. Whether it's what they say or what they do. I don't know anybody who hasn't made mistakes. But yet the left acts like they live by that standard, and that is hypocritical, it's dishonest, and it's insane. And of course, the lies, they are many. You have Stephen King, author, who posted that Charlie Kirk advocated for the stoning of gay people. Never happened. Never. Does it matter? No, they just go out and they freaking just spew this crap everywhere. Well, Stephen King got owned online. And this is why I say we have a moment here, because people are seeing the lies and they are attacking the lies in a way that has not happened anytime recently, maybe in our lifetime. Stephen King, I've apologized. Charlie Kirk never advocated for stoning gays to death. Oh, you think? And let me tell you, this guy got ripped. This guy is done. Nobody will give him credibility anymore. And he has had to go on an apology tour all over the internet. People show who they really are. I mean, is it any wonder that a guy is satanic, basically demonic, who, publishes the books that he has? I'm just saying, they're really scary. That's just one small example. It's happening everywhere. And do not be afraid to call this stuff out. Ideally, though, we're getting in a debate and a discussion with people in person, because anybody will say whatever exactly they want and take out the humanity of an argument or a debate when you're online. I understand pushing back, and I've done so. But if somebody really wants to have a discussion, get in person or at least on Zoom, get on a phone call. Don't do it through comments online. I'm telling you, if somebody, when somebody really wants to have a debate or a discussion, but usually it's more about, I want to try to do a gotcha and make you, I just want to pummel you into the dirt with comments. Don't be like that. It's easy to fall into it. I get it. I'm guilty of it. But I'm trying to elevate us to a higher standard of saying, if you know that somebody really is open, get on the phone, get in person. There are plenty of people, though, you know that that's really not what they want. But don't be afraid to push back with truth. Do not let these people get away with it. But it is amazing how many people are out there celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. Now they've been fired. And people go, what about free speech? We're advocating for free speech. No one's legal right to free speech has been violated. They've been allowed to say it. Have they been arrested? No. That doesn't mean our speech doesn't have consequences. It absolutely does. And people go, well, cancel culture? I thought you were against cancel culture. This isn't cancel culture. This is showing how evil and hateful. This isn't somebody has a point of view I disagree with. No, this is celebrating violence, advocating for violence from people that are in positions of trusted safety. These are teachers that are celebrating and advocating for violence. If you celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination, you are celebrating and advocating for violence. Black and white, period. You have pilots, airline pilots, celebrating this stuff. I'm sorry, I don't want to fly on a plane with someone who celebrates and advocates for violence. It's pretty simple. You have shown that you are not competent to hold the position that you are entrusted to have. Now, if there's somebody out there who's a professional assassin celebrating it, you go, okay, well, I guess it works with your line of work. But most everybody else, it doesn't compute. You got people high up at universities, high up in government offices, city government offices, celebrating and advocating this assassination. I'm sorry, that's not cancel culture. That's called accountability for incompetence. That's not free speech. That's not cancel culture. Those are not the same. So don't let them pull you in to this straw man argument. It does not hold up. We are not talking about free speech. Now, the unfortunate thing that is happening today, last night, Pam Bondi, our Attorney General, put out a statement about hate speech. I got to tell you, friends, this is the caution you have to have in your mind from a discernment standpoint is we can overreact too. We do not need to be going after hate speech legally. It is a slippery slope. I don't like the things that have been said. I just went through that. But when you overcorrect after something bad happens, the consequences are not good. So we have to be careful about this. And unfortunately, Pam Bondi is finding out people are not okay with this. And if I can find the clip, here we go.
What happened to Charlie in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle. There's free speech and then there's hate speech. And
okay, so here's where I would disagree with our Attorney General. Hate speech is one thing. You can hate somebody. You can say nasty things about somebody. It's not good. I wouldn't advocate for it. When you start threatening in any way, that's the difference. And so you can go online and say, white people are terrible. They suck. They can't dance. They're annoying. I wish they weren't here even. When you start advocating for violence, though, and making threats, that's the difference. Because of our free speech guarantee, it's for speech that we don't like, but we must protect it so we keep the conversation going which is precisely the work of the life of Charlie Kirk. And that's what it was dedicated to, is being able to have that debate. And specifically, this guy's mantra was, when you stop talking, that's when violent things happen. And so you have to keep talking. And so we can't overcorrect, Pam Bondi. I understand the instinct to do so, but we can't do it. We can't do it. Now, a couple other quick things here. We're going to be joined by Dino from TPUSA here in just a moment. But was written on the bullet casings of this assassin was, anti-fascist and anti-Nazi messages engraved on the assassin's bullets. Bella Ciao, some other furry remarks. Hey, catch this, fascist. You don't have to be very smart to understand that so many of this messaging is precisely what's been peddled on the leftist media and mainstream media. When you call somebody a fascist and a Nazi ad nauseum over and over and over, don't be surprised when weak-minded, unstable people are activated and take action. Are you free to say it? Of course, you're free to say it. But when you are in a position of power, position of trust, a position of responsibility like the media, that is where the violation is. Not legally, per se, but from a responsibility standpoint. And so many of these networks, especially ABC, NBC, Fox, CBS, they are given special licenses different than cable news and closed circuit options by our government. They are given. They broadcast over the airwaves. They even have, I would say, a deeper responsibility to tell the truth. But don't be surprised when you start peddling these labels when something happens. All right, finally, let me show you what the president is saying as far as who may be connected to this specific incident. And it relates to defunding NGOs. Here's what he said last week on Fox and Friends.
I had one the other night. I went into a restaurant and this woman stood up. I looked at her immediately. She had money. She wasn't serious. They get paid for it. They're professional from Soros and other people. And we're going to look into Soros because I think it's a RICO case against him and other people. Because this is more than like protests. This is real agitation. This is riots on the street. And we're going to look into that.
What do we do about our country?
So he's talking about George Soros, potential connection there. So just keeping you kind of in the loop on all those things. We'll come back to some of this here in a moment. Let's see here. What I want to do next, though, is see here. Okay, we have Dino Fantagrossi. Dino is with TPUSA at the University of Arkansas here in my home state. Dino, welcome to the show. Thank you.
Hello.
For joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Sounded good.
Perfect. I just want to clarify real quick before we get into anything that I'm here today to represent exclusively myself and my own beliefs and not that of any other group of people or organizations. So yes, I am with Turning Point, but the beliefs are my own.
All right. So Dino, I appreciate that. Our condolences, of course, to you and the TPUSA family. I know it was a tragic event last week. Give me an idea of the sense of you and fellow students and the organization. How have you been dealing with the aftermath in the last 6 days?
Right. So I can't necessarily speak for others, but I can speak for myself and what I've seen. And, the 10th was actually my birthday. And I was in class and I got a notification from somebody on my phone and they had sent me the uncensored footage right after the fact. I didn't even know anything had happened. So that was my first exposure to it. And I packed up my bags and I walked right out of class, said, "Sorry, professor, something bad's happened. I got to go." And I have been working nonstop ever since that moment to ensure that, we stay on the right track. It was incredibly devastating. I met Charlie several times, actually. I was very blessed to do so. And what always stuck out to me about Charlie was not that, he was a great debater or that he was super good at, dismantling people's logic in front of students in these big crowds. All of that's true. The thing that always stuck out to me about him, though, was that, you'd sit down with him for just a couple of minutes and he would make sure that you knew that he was a friend. He was a genuine person. He was caring, loving, compassionate, graceful.
Doing wrong, but
and he had this unwavering reliance on God at all times. It never wavered. And it's just something that really stuck out to me, and I think it stuck out to a lot of people.
So take me through some of the scenarios where you met Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, so the first time I met him was when he came to the University of Arkansas all the way back in 2022. We got like a little photo together. It was really nothing special, but he sat down and he did a big speech. He talked to students, answered questions, debated a little bit back and forth, and it was just really encouraging to see, and that's sort of what got me into Turning Point. The next time I would have met him, I was actually in line to answer a question, and I was the last person to get cut off. And a year later, I was invited to the Chapter Leadership Summit. That would be in 2023, and that was in West Palm Beach, Florida. And I got to meet him, talk to him for a couple of minutes, and then I met him again last year. Same deal. And then I met him again this summer. I actually had breakfast with him with several other students, and we got to sit down and talk. And, it wasn't just about politics. We sat down, we talked about Joey Chestnut, the competitive hot dog eater. This wasn't a man that was just like strictly on politics. He could have fun too. He was a human being. And that's really what I think a lot of people sort of forget in these spheres, because all they see is the clips where he's online debating people. And so they think it's politics, politics, politics. No, he was a human being. He had a wife, he had kids, he had friends, family, and all of them are reeling from this loss. I think we all are, but especially them. And that gets so lost in the discourse in the media. And it's really just disheartening to see how these things get obfuscated. So, yeah.
Indeed. So, Dino, you offered up the disclaimer there in the beginning. And I don't want you to, deviate from what you should or shouldn't say, but are we getting into a sense here with 2,000 plus existing chapters and 30,000 plus requests for new chapters, where maybe a lot of people are out there speaking, and is it possible that the organization is having to say, okay, let's not speak for the organization. Let's try not to, are there issues, even though you got all of these people in TPUSA, great students, right, members, but is it becoming difficult to kind of keep everybody on the same page, or are there, through the hurt, has it been a little chaotic? I mean, I would understand if it is.
So I can tell you what I've seen right here on our campus. Last Monday, we had about 75 registered members of our organization. This morning, we are now over 250.
Oh my gosh.
So we have grown that we're getting close to quadrupling, we're well past tripling. We're getting close to quadrupling. I told the couple of other exec members, our goal should be 1,000 by the end of this year. I think that is attainable if we really put some elbow grease into it. In terms of messaging, we did our own little memorial service on campus last night. And then last Thursday. And then Sunday evening, I went and spoke at another one in Bentonville. And I gave the same message, and I'll actually repeat it here right now. And that is, and this is to encourage people to sort of lock onto this messaging and this takeaway. Obviously, what happened to Charlie is tragic, and we can't ignore that fact. We have to keep that in the back of our minds at all points in time as we operate in the future. But how we operate and how we conduct ourselves is actually more important now than ever. There is a heightened level of scrutiny. There is a heightened level of attention being put on us. And so what we do next is going to be seen and heard for generations. That means that if we respond in kind with violence, we are going to lose. It is so important in times like this to look at the type of life that Charlie led. Like I mentioned before, he's graceful, compassionate, kind. He would listen to other people. He might not have agreed, and most times he didn't agree with other people that he was debating, but he heard them out. He sat down, he let them speak, and he responded in kind. And he wasn't rude. He was willing to let the other person speak their mind. Of course, if they came a little combative, he would trade a little couple jabs, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's the spirit of debate, and that's the spirit of free speech in this country. It is enshrined in the Constitution to protect your ability to give those little jabs back and forth. You know what I mean? That's the whole point. But he never strayed into the territory of demonizing other people. So we can't do that right now. I understand the temptation to. That being said, my faith dictates that I must treat my neighbor with love and compassion. It does not dictate that I stand idly by at the triumph of evil. And where we see it, we must call it out. And we must call it out with truth, grace, compassion, and justice with our words, not through violent means, not through these insane acts that we have seen from others. We cannot respond in kind or we lose. Those are the acts of the devil. We want the fruits of our labor to be godly and based in truth. That's how we respond. That's how we win. And it seems like a lot of people are locking onto this messaging, which I'm very thankful for, because I know how easy it can be to get angry when you see that video. I get it. I was angry at first. You know, I spent probably a good hour walking around on campus just not knowing what to do. I called my dad and I was furious, and I just started ranting, and I got through all those emotions. So that righteous fire in your belly is natural. Utilize it correctly, though. Don't let it lead you astray. Utilize it correctly, and we will win, because the truth is that Jesus Christ came to this earth. He died on the cross so that we might live eternally in his glory. We've already won so long as we stick to our principles, and those principles have to be rooted in truth, grace, compassion, justice, and that same unwavering reliance on God that Charlie Kirk had.
Yeah, well stated. So
thank you.
The aftermath obviously has resulted in, I think, a lot of people knowing who Charlie Kirk was, in larger numbers than when he was alive, which happens when somebody dies for a righteous cause. And so you have an incredible increase in numbers all across the country, but you still have people spreading lies about Charlie Kirk, taking him out of context or just flat out lying. And then you have these peaceful vigils. You know, the contrast has been pointed out here that when, you know, people on the left have a tragedy, they burn cities down, but those on the right after this tragedy have largely been praying and singing and coming together, remembering Charlie Kirk. But there are still agitators in the midst in those situations. I don't know if you can talk about the vigil. Of course, our audience is all over the country right now, but specifically Bentonville here in our area, of course, where Walmart is located. You were at that vigil the other night. Can you speak to maybe what you're hearing or direct experiences that you've had where you're in a situation like a vigil or someone else is, and they are still being confronted by people that are angry, that are trying to provoke, and are just, I mean, mean, if you want to say it simply. I received a video from a friend at New York University the other night where they were praying and singing, and another group came right next to them and started making up the most horrific songs and threatening songs right next to them.
Mhm.
And so right now, as I pointed out early on in the show, I don't know, you probably didn't see it, but basically, we have a very, very clear vision right now, maybe more than in our lifetime, probably, certainly in your lifetime, probably as a young guy, of good and evil, good versus evil. So any of these situations you've encountered or have talked to people about this agitation, this evil, this, these people confronting or trying to disrupt in the middle of just an opportunity to peacefully remember Charlie Kirk?
So, as far as that goes, we actually haven't had anybody try and interrupt us yet. And I think part of the reason why is that at our memorial service last Thursday at the University of Arkansas, and then the last one in Bentonville on Sunday, there was a remarkable police presence. So I'm sure that probably helped. They see cops with dogs or like a million sheriff officers standing around, and they get a little squeamish and they walk away. So maybe they wanted to, but they certainly didn't, which is nice. I'm grateful for that, of course. I did make sure to point that out both times, that there are going to be agitators and people that want to poke and prod and get under your skin, and you have to not let them. One of the things Charlie Kirk inspired me to do in terms of what we do on campus in the past, because we've had plenty of agitators in the past, and I'm sure there will be plenty in the future as well. He inspired me not just to speak out for what I believe, but he also inspired me to stand in front of my campus community and get yelled at, get insulted, get slapped, get spit on, coffee or water thrown on me, my property destroyed, the whole 9 yards. And look at that person in the eyes and not respond with that same agitation or violence, but say, "God bless you, sir. Have a nice day." Because that's way more powerful than giving them what they want.
Right.
Demons rejoice when you respond in kind, but they cower when you respond with the grace of God. So we haven't seen that quite yet, but we have in the past, and I'm sure we will in the future. And I've been making great efforts to ensure that all of my students respond in that same manner. I've fallen short as well. I don't want to pretend to be like a perfect person or anything like that. There's plenty of times where I got angry. And I'm sure I will in the future. We're all going to fall short. That's the nature of man. But it's that, we want to try to be better, because they want to drag us astray, and we can't do that. So we got to keep trying.
So talk a little, Dino, about about TPUSA. I know you're not speaking on their behalf, but for people that may not know what TPUSA is, explain that.
Yeah, so it is this is the spiel I give on campus, so maybe you'll enjoy this. We are a constitutional conservative organization. We talk about rights, freedom of speech, gun rights, all those sorts of things. We also talk about free market ideas and why those are important within our society. We talk about cultural stuff too. So, back before the election, we spent a little time on campus talking about the border, talking about economics. We made like these big poster boards. You can go to Walmart, get those $1 little phone boards. And, we just go to the library and print out some statistics and post it on there, and throw some stickers on there, make it look all cute and whatnot, and then stand in front of campus and, just discuss it with people. Because ultimately, the entire point of this organization is discussion. That's what Charlie was doing. That's what we are going to continue doing, is having these conversations. That's the only way forward. We have to continue to talk to one another. When we don't do that, like you said earlier, and like Charlie said ad nauseum, when you can't talk to one another, that is when violence ensues. Talking is so important. That's the entire point of the Constitution. It wasn't so that you could say nice, agreeable things like, "I love chocolate." Yeah, everybody loves chocolate. What a controversial take. The entire point is that you could get out there and say things that are wildly controversial, even things that you and I would probably disagree with, because when you actually challenge people's ideas like that in the marketplace, you prove your point better than when you silence them through violent means. When you silence them through violent means, what do we see? Especially with somebody like Charlie Kirk, who had not a single bad bone in his body, you martyr them, and you make them right retrospectively. Challenging them in the marketplace of ideas, proving them wrong, is a much more effective means to an end. And so we're going to continue challenging these ideas on our campus, and I'm sure other people will across the country. It seems like there's no slowing down. Instead, there is an incredible growth. People saw what happened to Charlie. They didn't cower in fear. They didn't run away. They ran to us. They saw what happened and said, now is the time for me to make my voice heard. They ran to us. They want to get involved like I've never seen before. I mean, we have to consider it was just over a year ago that Donald Trump was shot in the ear. And I don't think we saw half the response from the conservatives in this country that we have seen over Charlie Kirk. Mm-hmm. I think that says something about the man. I agree with your characterization that more people know of him now than they did when he was alive. I think that we need to be very careful about the fact that he was still massive when he was alive. And the left keeps trying to spin it as if he was like some mid-level conservative commentator. No, he was one of the most important in the country. He's half the reason Trump was elected in the first place. He was really a larger-than-life figure, even at the time. His accomplishments extended to every, college campus in the country. Even if they didn't have a chapter, somebody on that campus knew who he was. Yeah. Undoubtedly, he was massive. I'm reluctant to say that he might not have been the biggest conservative personality short of any one of our elected officials in the country. And certainly now he might be bigger than anyone else, short of maybe Donald Trump, because he's the president.
Sure.
But he was massive, and the world's, he's not going to be so easily replaced.
No.
But we're all going to do our part to make sure that his legacy lives on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, what I said the day it happened while we were on the air was, he was a living legend. He was a guy who was doing the work while he was alive, where you looked at him and said, this guy is doing something unique and has a special way of doing it. And, he wasn't far right as he's been labeled or a radical. I mean, Charlie Kirk was a reasonable person. Yeah. That's what makes it so stark, I think, with his assassination. And you talk about Trump and the fact that they assassinated a guy who was reasonable, who did not want violence, who wanted conversation. If this happened to Donald Trump, it would have been, villainized in a certain way, or it wouldn't have had the broad reach, because so many people can look at Charlie Kirk's life work and appreciate, understand it, and relate to it because he was a private citizen. I mean, I've equated this. I believe this is our MLK, certainly the generation that you're part of, the MLK moment from the standpoint of a private citizen advocated for the right to free speech. That's a civil rights advocate in his own right. And as you said, Charlie Kirk was instrumental in the 2024 election. If he didn't do what he did, I don't think President Trump would have been elected. But you also have people like J.D. Vance, that he advocated for J.D. Vance to be the vice president. Probably wouldn't be had it not been for Charlie Kirk. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Oh, yeah.
The catalyst to getting that collaboration going between Trump and Kennedy. So and here's the other thing about this, Dino, is there are so many things about Charlie Kirk that he did not tell you in public, because it wasn't about him getting the credit. This is when I see, a true servant's heart type person, is you find out so many things about what they did as far as, doing what's right, even when no one was watching. You don't find them out until they pass, unfortunately. But that to me is the sign. This was someone doing the work for the sake of the cause, not for the sake of attention or credit. And that has to be the example so many of all of us can take as the right way to do it.
Absolutely.
Dino, do you think when you talk to fellow students, I mean, do you think that they're, the sadness about this, the trauma? I mean, are you concerned about the long-term effect? Has it caused people to be afraid?
I mean, I think our recruitment numbers would suggest otherwise. Perhaps some are, but to the extent that they are, they're afraid to the point where they feel if they don't take action, they will lose what they have. And so perhaps it's maybe not the worst type of fear. You know, there was a time in my life where if I had seen this, certainly my first instinct would not to be to get involved. I mean, there's plenty of people I'm sure that saw it and they were terrified. Like, what do I do now? And I think my message to them would be, well, get involved, you know, get involved. It doesn't have to be through Turning Point. It could be through your, like you were mentioning earlier, it could be through your local, you know, party. It could be campaigning, etc. In fact, Turning Point has lots of alternatives. It's not just Turning Point USA, which operates on college campuses, but there's also Turning Point Academy for homeschoolers. There is Club America for high schools. You can go start a high school chapter. There's Turning Point Faith if you want to be more involved in the religious aspect. If you're a pastor, you can go and look into that. There's Turning Point Action for chasing ballots. And if you are over the age of 27, you know, you're out of the college range and you want to get involved, go chase ballots. There's nothing better you could be doing with your time than that. That's how we continue to win. And, you know, I say that we want to have these discussions and that we want to find common ground where we can, but there is a certain subset of the left that can never be allowed to hold power over us again. You know, we've seen what they do when they wield it, and it's terrifying. And so you have to go chase ballots, because the alternative is, you know, if we lose some pretty important elections, we could be in a much scarier place than we are today. That's not to say that we aren't in a pretty rough patch. You know, things could get bad, which is why I keep advocating for peaceful, graceful approaches, not through violence. We don't want violence. We don't want it. You know, these are our brothers and sisters, whether they are misguided or not. They are still our brothers and sisters, our aunts and uncles. You know, they are our family. They are our kin. We can't be fighting. We need to find a way forward. But when your toddler, right, is having a temper tantrum, you don't just explain to them why they're wrong, but you put them in timeout for a minute. You say, okay, well, until we find out what's going on here, until we discover that, you know, how to conduct ourselves, you're not going to play with the toy anymore. And so perhaps the toy is government, and we can't let them in that seat of power until they come back to some semblance of reality and say, we're not going to do the demonization anymore. We're not going to do these evil things anymore. Maybe we have debates about the tax rate, right? We might have debates about, like, what is the best border policy? And those things matter, but they matter to the extent that we can still get along as people, and we need to get back to getting along as people. That's so foundational to any civilization. So that's what we're going to do. If you want to get involved, go look into any of those things that I just said. I'm sure that there's something for you out there.
That's great, Dino. You know, especially, you know, we don't have a huge audience under 25, so the 27 and up, you know, direction there on chasing ballots.
Yeah, go chase ballots.
TP Action, TP USA Action. Is that what it is?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you guys can go and look that up. So obviously, Charlie's widow Erica addressed the nation the other night. I just want to play that clip here with you, Dino, if you're okay with that, and get your reaction to it. So stand by. Of course, it's going to do this.
Of course. We love technology.
We love technology. All right. Here we go.
Last night. Gigi, our daughter, just ran into my arms. And I talked to her and she said, Mommy, I missed you. I said, I miss you too, baby. She goes, where's Daddy? What do you tell a 3-year-old? She's 3. I said, baby, Daddy loves you so much. Don't you worry. He's on a work trip with Jesus, so he can afford your blueberry budget.
Well, first of all, if I may address Erica, and I thought she was incredibly brave and courageous. And
Okay, that wasn't exactly the. Let's see, get you back. Mute you here. There you are. So, I think I went to the wrong clip there. Here, hold on. Give me just 1 second.
No worries.
Talk to me real quick while I'm bringing this clip up.
Sure.
What I noticed? This past weekend was. I think a lot of churches had a lot more people in them.
Yeah.
Did you witness that? I certainly did. What have you heard about that? What are you seeing out there?
That's certainly what it seems to be. So I wasn't able to attend. I was sick as a dog, probably from overworking myself. But there was the March for Life in Bentonville, or no, that was in Rogers this last Sunday as well, before the vigil. And they said that they had remarkable turnout. My friend Catalina, my vice president, she went to that, and she said that there was a huge crowd of people. And I mean, they've been doing it yearly, so I'm not quite sure how that looks like. I'm from Little Rock, so I'm more familiar with Little Rock stuff than I am Fayetteville, more or less. But I mean, I've seen people all around the country posting clips showing that their church parking lot is full to the door, and that's great. That's what you want to see. So more of that. Continue.
Yep. More of that. I think there's certainly I believe a revival. Charlie Kirk was one of the key mouthpieces of this young generation coming back to church, or interested in faith, interested in the Bible. He was one of the, we heard this, in conversations, people talking about, oh yeah, the younger generation is actually, increasing as far as their interest in faith. Charlie Kirk they were getting that information from him. I mean, they may not have known it, but he was, obviously TPUSA and Charlie Kirk behind that movement, I believe. But it seems like now it's, gasoline has been poured on that fire, I would think, to an extent. Let me play Erica Kirk here. This should be the right one, and then we'll talk.
The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done. They killed Charlie because he preached a message of patriotism, faith, and of God's merciful love. But they should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry. To everyone listening tonight across America, the movement my husband built will not die. It won't. I refuse to let that happen. It will not die. All of us will refuse to let that happen. No one will ever forget my husband's name, and I will make sure of it. It will become stronger, bolder, louder, and greater than ever. My husband's mission will not end, not even for a moment.
Dino, your reaction there to that?
Well, when I first heard that Erica was going to be doing an address, I was a little concerned. I was like, is this too soon? But I watched the whole thing live when she was giving it, and she just knocked it completely out of the park. I mean, that was some incredible strength and courage to get up there and say the words she said. And, obviously through sniffles and a couple of tears, but in a way that was clairvoyant, powerful nonetheless. She didn't stifle. She didn't stray from her message. She spoke from her heart with this incredible power that many people could not do. And so I thought it was very impactful. I think she's right, especially when we talk about the recruitment numbers that I mentioned, that you had mentioned before. Like, his movement is not near death. In fact, it's almost been given a fresh breath of life in a way that it probably would not have had before. They do a big conference every year in Arizona called America Fest. And I don't know if they sell out of tickets usually, but they're like this close to selling out of tickets already, and it's mid-September. They're about to
December,
be
right?
Yes, it's December. I want to say it's the 18th through 21st. You can Google it, of course, and you'll find the dates. But yeah. In fact, we're trying to get our students to go, and they're running low on tickets, and it's becoming a bit of a problem for us because we wanted to send as many students from our university as we could, but
sort of a good problem
keep
to have.
trying.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Dino, yeah, I mean, the strength that Erica Kirk showed was incredible. The cries of this widow are going to echo around the world like a battle cry. I mean, every time I hear that, it's goosebumps. I was really struck by her strength and resolve to continue to push this mission forward. And so I see it in the chat, and I think it's evident here. I mean, in your own words, Dino, I mean, you have enthusiasm. You are not deterred. You are not shaken. And that is encouraging for old people like me to see you there in a mindset of saying, no, now is the time to be even more motivated. And so, I know you as a guy who's just naturally enthusiastic anyway, which is great. Is the rest of your chapter, are they as enthusiastic as you, or are they more enthusiastic? Give people a sense, because it seems, and you don't have to say anything, that's, not true, but I think through your enthusiasm, you're giving people hope that, this has only just begun.
Well, we put together the memorial service last Thursday in about 6 to 8 hours, and we had somewhere between 300 to 500 people show up just on our campus alone. We had an entire fraternity show up to show their support. In terms of enthusiasm going forward, we haven't really done anything yet back on campus, so it remains to be seen a little bit. We're going to be doing a chapter meeting this Thursday. Generally speaking, in the past, we've had 15 to 20 people on average a week. And we might get 5 to 7 RSVPs. I think we're sitting about 50 RSVPs right now, and probably expecting more than that to show up. So my goal is to pack the room and then report back to you and let you know.
Yeah, please.
I think that there's an incredible enthusiasm in our generation in general, that, people that were on the fence, like, I like Charlie, I know about Turning Point, but I'm not so sure if I want to get involved. I keep going back to those recruitment numbers, but I think that they speak a powerful message, because there was plenty of people that would walk up to us when we tabled, and they would write their name down and say, yeah, I'm interested. Every single one of the people that have registered with us through our school website, those are people not that we reached out to, they've reached out to us.
Wow.
That's that's very different, right? We haven't set up our table this week, and we're not going to for the rest of the week, just sort of out of an abundance of caution. While there's still a lot of hot heads, we want cooler heads to prevail. So we're trying to be tactful in that sense. But next week, we're going to set up our table every single day on campus. That's my pledge. We're going to be front and center. We're going to show that we're not going to back down. We're going to continue this mission. And then I'd happily report back to you and let you know how that goes, so that you can share that message with your audience. I get the feeling that the enthusiasm is there. I think it will manifest itself. But I want to add that little sprinkle of but you never know. You just never know. I have full faith that it will, though.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Dino, tell us how we can help TPUSA in general. What can we do? What can folks do? And if people want to follow you or stay connected to you, if that's something you want,
Sure.
let us know that too.
You can follow me on Instagram if you'd like at tenacious.dino.
Nice.
Great username. I had to steal that one. In terms of getting involved with Turning Point, like I said, all those things before, if you're over the age of 26, 27, especially if you're out of college, go look up Turning Point Action, chase ballots. That's huge. If you want to donate, go to the Turning Point website, buy merch from them. Don't buy it from a third party. Most of those third parties, the money's not going to Turning Point, so we kind of don't like that. If you want to support us locally, just repost what we post and, be supportive in that way. We just need to show people right now that we're not going to back down. We're going to continue this mission. Of course, I'm saying that as a representative of myself, not of the organization.
Understood.
But I'm not backing down. I'm going to continue to fight, and I hope people stand behind me when I do.
Right on. Dino, well done. Thank you for joining us. We'll have you back. Keep me posted. We'll stay in contact, of course.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Dino, I always got to look over here how to pronounce your name. Fantagrossi. Am I getting that right?
That's actually 100% correct.
Okay. Well, I make my living off of being 100% correct. So that's
there you go.
I'm batting 1,000 right now.
Love to see it.
Dino, thank you so much. Keep up the good fight, sir. We are with you. We are with you.
All right. Take care.
All right. Dino there with TPUSA. We will take a break and be right back. And we are going to get into a couple final items here before the end of the show. Stay tuned.
We're active in about 15 campuses, and we're growing very, very quickly. And keep in mind, this is not just a flash in the pan movement. We're going to become an institution to give them the power and the confidence to stand up and let their voice be heard. I started this organization when I was 18 years old. I decided not to go to college. I didn't get in my dream school, which was the United States Military Academy at West Point. I have this idea to galvanize and motivate the future youth of this country around a core set of ideas, not just political parties or politicians. And the ideas are really America's the greatest country in the history of the world. The Constitution is the greatest political document ever written, and free enterprise is the most assured way to lift people out of poverty and create prosperity for all. Those are the three big ideas. And I think that's something that can win. We as Christians are called to go into the public arena to correct error with truth. So I go to college campuses and there's a lot of error. We're all sinners. We all live in error. I'm far more interested in what God wants of me than what I want from God.
I have to say this without getting emotional, but I'm very proud of my husband. And I know many of you are too. You have worked so hard. And I know a lot of you have seen, obviously, his videos on TikTok and all the stuff he does on campus, but no one gets to see him from my angle except for myself and our children. And the sacrifices that he made this year, he's amazing. I'm very blessed.
And I would not have been able to do any of it without Erica. And that's the real truth. I'll tell you what. You are here as a grassroots response to the top-down revolution happening in this country. I want our Turning Point USA students to receive a round of applause. These are the freedom fighters of America.
The media said that Turning Point could never run a ground game. They weren't experienced. They didn't know Charlie, right?
This is the greatest generational realignment since Woodstock. This generation is the most conservative generation that we have seen in well over 50 years, and the numbers show it. What young people especially are screaming at is they say, give me a structure that I can live my life by. And especially with young men, more challenging of them, more saying, you know what, honestly, I'm not gonna talk down to you. Stop being a boy and become a man. You wanna learn what that means? Come to church and I'll tell you what it means to become a man. Because we have the greatest story ever told. What can I do to save the country? You answer that question every single day because you are doing the work to save this beautiful republic. You are doing something that is bigger than you.
If everything completely goes away, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. Most important thing is my faith in my life.
All right, welcome back into the show here. And so with the final 17 minutes that we have left here, I want to make sure that we get to any other things. By the way, shoot, I just lost all of my stuff. I don't know why. that is amazing. That is amazing. Wow, I just lost all the clips I had. Love it. Okay. All right. So you heard what Dino said there about ways to get involved. And of course, you sort of have these two polar opposite. Yes, Safari quit unexpectedly. Yeah, thank you. You have these polar opposites as far as emotion right now, because you have you're bitter. It's bittersweet. You're bitter in a sense because of evil that's out there, right? And then you have the incredible encouragement and inspiration of people like Dino and those at TPUSA and people all over our country that are standing up. I mean, you have stadiums of NFL games and Major League Baseball games and college football games that are doing a tribute to Charlie Kirk before the game. I mean, in his death, Charlie Kirk has penetrated secular culture broadly with awareness and sympathy and appreciation and inspiration in an incredible way. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen pro sports teams ever put a conservative on their video screen. I mean, just that basic level. But the fact that they set out time, moment of silence, did tributes, played videos, and all that stuff, there's something going on here. Let me tell you, the people that were behind that bullet that rang out on September 10th at Utah Valley University had no idea that it was the shot heard round the world for an awakening for truth. I believe it in my gut and in all of my being. And so what Satan means for evil, God uses for good, and I am seeing the good. And so you have that bittersweet contrast between what happened last week and what is happening now. And so I would just encourage you, friend, lean into it like Dino is. Lean into it. Look at all the people. I mean, they went from 75 people to 250. And if this is any indication across the country, this is a watershed moment. I told you I wept for our next generation because deadly Christian persecution has arrived on our soil in the most dramatic way, the most evident way. And what is this next generation going to do with it? As Charlie believed and knew and told us, stop talking down to this generation, stop not believing in them. Instead, get behind them as a champion because they are more capable than you realize. And that is exactly what they're doing. And so I would say take heart, be encouraged. Encourage young people out there. Do what you can. Give money, give encouragement. And I will tell you this. What I'm taking away from the stories of Charlie Kirk, of all these people saying, I talked to Charlie, yesterday or earlier today or 2 days ago, and I'm going, how did this dude talk to so many people? How did he text so many people? And it's like, I realized that Charlie Kirk was out there as an encourager all the time. He was getting things done, but he was reaching out to a lot of people consistently and keeping the conversation going. And nearly every one of them said that he was being encouraged, or she was being encouraged by Charlie, that he was an encourager and excited. I got to tell you, friend, you start doing this or get in the space of knowing what's going on in our country and our world, and it's real easy to become downtrodden. But as Charlie Kirk said to Tucker Carlson, without the faith aspect, without understanding God and the Word of God and what's really going on, it will drive you crazy. Even being on the right, it'll drive you crazy. But when you know what it's really all about, when you know it's a spiritual battle, you know what's going on, you're not going to be surprised, you're not going to be caught off guard. And in turn, those of us that know the real story of what's going on here, we should have joy. We should be happy warriors, I believe, like Charlie Kirk was. And so I've made it my mission every morning when I'm praying, after I get done praying, I am sending a text to someone I know to encourage them. That's what I'm doing. And I know some people are getting some texts from me going, what the heck has happened to you? Aren't you? I mean, usually you're a little more pessimistic about stuff. I don't know how long it's going to last. I hope for a long time, but I'm just telling you that's my commitment is I don't want to go about this life being a consumer of everything. I want to give to others. I want to encourage others in the name of the Lord, not in the name of Charlie, but in the name of truth and righteousness and all that is sweet and beautiful and holy and good. Let's do that. Whatever that means in your life. But instead of waiting for someone to encourage you or give you a compliment, legitimate compliment, I'm not for frivolous compliments, but instead of waiting for someone to give you something, go out and give today. Be an encourager. Try to help somebody. What can I do for you? You know, we're so worried to do that. Well, if I ask them what I can do for them, I'm going to have to do some stuff, and that's going to be annoying. Don't let that deter you. And in that way, we can use this tragedy for good, and in many other ways. Just a bit of a note of encouragement for you, friends. All right. I do have to say this, not to, throw cold water on all this, but we do need your contributions and help to continue to bring you this type of content. So if you've enjoyed today's content and you want to help us be able to just cover our cost, you can do so with a $5 or $10 contribution via Cash App or Venmo at IkeReport.com. We've got those unique links set up there. IkeReport.com, Cash App or Venmo, or in the chat on Rumble if you would like to support what we are doing to bring you this content. We do have a $10 contribution on the board from Star. Thank you so much, Star. Appreciate that via Cash App. So Star's our first contribution in probably a week and a half. So thank you, Star, for that. We would appreciate and could use your help out there. Cash App or Venmo at IkeReport.com or in the chat on Rumble. Okay. What else? I'm trying to, let's see here. I want to play. I've sort of, I'm all over the place because I'm trying to make sure I show you all this stuff, but we don't have much time left here because Shannon Joy is coming up next on the Died Suddenly feed. Make sure you're following me on X, please. I know there's a lot of you watching over on the Died Suddenly feed right now, about 4,000 of you. Go follow me on X, please. Please follow me. Ike Wingate is my handle. You can just click the title of this broadcast and go right over to my X page, click follow, and come back. Please do that. I'm trying to build and grow, and that, you don't have to give to this show, but if you follow me, you've given me a lot because it says you want to be part of what we're doing, and this just helps us with credibility and all those kind of things. So please follow me on X. My handle is Ike Wingate. It's right in the title of this program. All right. So a couple things, you saw the Green Bay Packers last week do this moment of silence there.
Kirk, the National Football League asks that you please join us in a moment of silent reflection following the murder of Charlie Kirk. The NFL condemns all violence in our communities. It will take all of us to stop hate. Thank you.
Now, someone in broadcasting, some of these announcements were a little bit lame, like, ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the Jumbotron, where we remember Charlie Kirk, a guy who was advocating for free speech on college campuses. It's like, dude, you're doing a serious moment, like stop the puker voice is what we call it in the industry. You're puking all over the mic like, hey, everybody. Anyway, too much, too much. But good on them for doing this. Now, if you haven't seen Vice President Vance's address, he hosted the Charlie Kirk show yesterday. Now, I was going to go live yesterday, but after finding out that he was going to be hosting and filling in, Vice President Vance filling in on Charlie Kirk's show, I did not. I just decided, you know what? I'm not going to compete with that. I don't want to compete with that. I want as many people to watch that as possible. I want to watch it too, but Vance's address at the end, the last 15 minutes, I retweeted it on my X feed. It's incredible. It is fantastic. It is. Everybody needs to watch the whole thing, especially if you're on the left or lean left. Watch it because we're calling for unity. And as Vance spells out, we want unity. Desperately, we want unity. Desperately, we need to have unity for truth. And that is what Vance says, is we can't have unity without truth. So if we're lying about things and we're supposed to be unified together, we can't do that because it's not real unity. It's fake. And so we need the left to start finally calling out their own and stop saying things like fascist and Nazi all the time. Once there's some ownership of it and some actual truth about it, we can be unified. But if we're going to dig into our political stances and not back down, even with everything in the face of our country this week, and still peddle these lies, there can't be unity. You can't unify with something that isn't real. And they want to talk about, well, it's both sides. I got to tell you, it's not both sides. It doesn't mean that the Republicans are innocent of everything, but this violence, it is a one-sided thing. They say, well, what about the assassinations in Minnesota of the political figures? That was a guy who is doing it out of allegiance to Tim Walz. That's what he said. He was a nut job. Okay? He did identify on the right, but he was doing things for the left and he was on some not board, but he was appointed to something by Tim Walz. And so he had some weird allegiance to Tim Walz, the governor. They want to say that's right-wing violence. It's not. Josh Shapiro, Democrat governor of Pennsylvania, his house was invaded. They tried to burn it down, I believe. Nothing happened to them. And they say that's on the right. It's not on the right. That was a pro-Palestine, anti-Israel ideology. That was the motivation for that. That was not on the right. They want to talk about Paul Pelosi getting hit in the head with the hammer with that guy when he was looking for Nancy. That was not a dude on the right. He was a crazy nut job hippie weirdo dude. And Charlie Kirk made the statement, some good MAGA, good Republican ought to go bail him out. And the left wanted to say, see, he's advocating for violence. No, if you watched more than 10 seconds, you see what Charlie Kirk was saying on the air was, this makes no sense. This is not a guy on the right. He doesn't fit the mold of someone who's conservative at all. Some good Republican ought to go post bail and bail him out and start asking him questions to find out who he really is. That's the true story. This is not violence from the left. Or I'm sorry, this is not violence from the right. It is from the left. But these are the examples they want to tell you are from violence on the right. And we have Steve Scalise, President Trump, Charlie Kirk, and on and on and on, like casualties or nearly a very real casualty, either a casualty or very close to, from violence on the left. It's time for the left to own their violence and for common sense people to call it out. Senator Fetterman out of Pennsylvania is one of the only Democrats calling it out. More people need to do this. It's time to own it. Be genuine. Own the mistakes. It doesn't mean you're responsible unless you've been saying these things, and then you are partly, but you need to own it and say, this is not the way. Marjorie Taylor Greene says she's ready for a national divorce, that she's done with Democrats. She says, I'll pray for the left, but personally, I want nothing to do with them. I got to tell you, I don't know that I agree with her wholly. I think if they want unity, the left has to own the mistakes. They have to change their ways. But that doesn't mean we stop engaging in ways to win people over. And by telling the truth, being above board, not backing down, but respectfully telling the truth, we will win people over. And I think that's precisely why Charlie Kirk's legacy has exploded in real time because of the way he went about it. Although they spit in his face and yelled at him, I mean, even talking to Dino, all the things that have happened to him, you stay the course because you know what you're doing is right. You have the assurance of the infallible, inerrant word of God that tells you that they're going to hate you for my sake. But we must continue telling the truth because it will set people free. It's really the only true answer. And as I've said before, Charlie Kirk, yes, he was an activist, if you will, but I don't think he was a political activist. I think he was a faith leader that used politics as the mechanism to get that faith out there. I think it's a great example, and I hope that this awakening in our country continues and that it really is an awakening. But don't get sucked in. Don't be violent. Don't stoop to their level, but don't back down. Don't back down, my friends. Thank you for watching the show. Please heart the post and repost. Give us a thumbs up. We got to make way for Shannon Joy coming up next on the X feed for Died Suddenly. And Lord willing, I'll be back with you Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Thursday, listen, people come in and say, I didn't know when you're going to be on. I posted on the locals group, ikenation.locals.com. But you can count on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 to noon Eastern for now until we figure out what we're going to do next. Until that time, remember, the truth is always worth it. Never stop being a free and critical thinker. The truth is always worth it. Have a great day.
Rate, subscribe, and leave a review. It's how we get the word out amidst the chaos. Thanks for listening to The Ike Wingate Show.